Hi, I'm Leslie Hill, the Director of the Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Center, and I am here today with Indiana Stamp and Strataflow owners, and we are bringing you Getting Vulnerable and Going Strong. I'm going to have both of them introduce themselves, and we're going to walk through what it's been like to take a family business through 3 generations and let you know what's on the horizon for the company, and also just talk about running the company and what it's like during that transition period, because it will happen to many businesses. It just depends on what stage you're in. So I will have you introduce yourself first.
My name is Tom Beaver, and I've been in our family business for about 35 years approximately, and I am currently the CEO and the chairman of the board of our little companies.
And I'm Olivia Warner. I'm the president of Indiana Stamp Company, 3rd generation, founded by my grandfather and his brother. So I like to say that a lot of times you hear the 3rd generation is kind of where things can go south. So I'm here to prove that wrong. Yes. So, and then Strataflow Products is my husband, Andy Warner, runs that business.
Okay, so how did all of this come about how did it start? And then now it's kind of, is it 3 different companies? Is it 2?
You answer that.
Okay. Yes, it's grown kind of organically over the years, but it did start with my grandfather and his uncle, through my grandfather being a purchasing agent here locally. And he had to go to Chicago to get quick turnaround on his stamps. And he thought, well, there's something wrong with this when I can't go to Fort Wayne and get a quick stamp. And so his brother was in the same business out east, and he said, why don't you come check it out? I think there's an opportunity here. And that's really how the company got started. They saw a need in the community, and my grandpa and his brother filled that need with their business, Indiana Stamp, and that started about 1947, so 70 years is how long we've been in business.
Wow, that is so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
So when did you come into the business?
I came in about 1974 after I graduated from IPFW with a degree in management. My dad at that time had a little company called Lincoln Coders, which my brother now still has, out next to United Parcel Systems out in Centennial Park. And about 10 years ago now, he and I separated our assets, and the main thought was that I have 3 daughters, my brother had 2 children, and it just would be better off if we minimize the number of people that were involved in the decision making and in the ownership. So it's been a very good thing, I think, for both parties. So I've been involved then, as I say, back since 1974.
All right. And so how was that transition from you taking it from your dad's company? I mean,
how did that go?
yes, because I think I'm taking it from my dad's.
Dads are tough, right?
Yeah, no.
And so I always loved my dad, got along well with him, except he had some ideas and always kind of wanted to get back into the business. He was semi-retired when I got into the business.
Oh, okay.
And we always have a partner in each of our little businesses with us, a non-family partner, and maybe we'll get into some of that later as to the why, but it's worked out very well. It makes a lot of sense for us. And so the partner and I kind of ran the business, and then a couple of years later my brother joined us. So it really was not that bad. I don't want to give the wrong impression dealing with my dad. But I learned a lot. Some things that I wanted to be sure I did, and some things I wanted to be sure that I didn't do,
Mm-hmm.
So I just always really appreciated the man and the gift, the opportunity that he's given to us.
Yeah. Wow. And then how have you felt about this transition?
Shall I step off?
Yes.
Out?
Yeah, just give us a few minutes.
Yeah, I will.
No, I think you know, and transparency was part of what we talked about, and we have, I would say, we've worked through that transition. There have been tears and that sort of thing. Quite honestly, as I had to learn to step up and do so in a respectful manner and be able to share my ideas, and Dad had to learn to listen, and
Let go.
let go, and there's always a part of it where he's still my father.
Yeah.
And so that family relationship, you can't really untangle that when you're talking the business environment with what we do. So we've just had to learn to communicate. I mean, you asked, one of the questions was, what are the 3 best practices? Communicate. You know, honestly, truthfully, what's truly on your heart. And I feel like we can do that. He can share things with me. Did you really mean to say it that way, or are you sure about that? You know, question each other, and we do that with our partners, like Dad said. But especially in our relationship, we have to have a very open and honest relationship.
One of the things we do, and it'll probably sound trite, but is try to foster openness in communications with all of our employees. We teach them 7 habits. We teach them such things as who moved my cheese, so that everybody's on the same page. But we have to work at our relationships, family business relationships, because they're different.
Right.
We've had several family members in the business that didn't work out too well. And so we had to find ways to, how do I want to say, what's the word, assuage that, or to minimize some of those impacts. And one of the things that we did, Leslie, was to start family retreats. And I had a friend, still have the friend, who blessed me with a book called You Can't Fire Me, I'm Your Father. Sounds humorous. It is not humorous. It's a great book. In fact, it was so helpful to us in our retreats that my wife and I buy them on the internet for $5 and just give them away to people who have family businesses, because there's something in there that will be of benefit. I mean, it's A to Z of the things that can go wrong in a business. And it talks about all of those. And so we did family retreats for about 4 years, and over 2 of those years, 2 times a year, we would get together with the whole family, including the little ones, not necessarily included in this discussion, but and talk about this book. And we take turns leading the divisions or the chapters, so that everybody's expressing and hearing. And like Liv said, this is where we had a lot of tears. But you know, we always talk about the flowers don't grow on top of the mountain. They grow down in the valleys where it's, you know, down in the low areas.
True.
You know, and so you have to face those things and you have to talk about them. And so through that and through communication, where we repeat and talk about the 7 habits and that kind of thing in classes, and the expectations with the employees communicating among themselves and with us in our meetings, that is so important. But it reinforces. Every time you hear that, you know, it gets reinforced. And the significance of that for the employees is that if there's something going on, if they spot something on an order that just ain't quite right from the last time they saw it from this customer, we want them to raise their hand and say, hey, this isn't right. What do you think? Maybe they meant it, maybe they didn't, but they ask, okay?
Yeah, instead of just receiving it,
Yeah.
filling it
Right.
out, and shipping it.
And they know that they're not
Nice.
going to get browbeaten or docked in any way for having shared that. We encourage that. We want them to do that sort of thing because it's good for us and it's good for the customers. And we tell the employees that they know I'm not perfect. Okay, they know, they've seen me make mistakes, and I'll probably tell them about it when I do. Same with Liv. So we establish our humanness, and that makes it easier for them to come to us. We don't want the customer to know that we make mistakes. We want them to see perfection.
Right.
So we try to keep the imperfection in-house. Did I say that halfway? close?
Yeah, no, that's
Sorry.
exactly right. Part of it, in speaking to entrepreneurs, taking calculated risks. I mean, we all know that they're not always going to work out, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there and try things to find the next great thing. I would say another hurdle, I guess, something as the leader of a company you have to be thinking about is you hear the phrase working in the business, not on the business. You know, it really needs to be that you're working on the business, and so I guess I said that wrong. You have to work on the business, not in the business. But it's so easy as the leader to get into the day-to-day, and at some points in the life of the business, a startup obviously is going to be a lot different, but at a certain point you have to be able and be willing to train others that work with you to share your knowledge so that you can be doing the thing that only you can be doing. And that's something that I constantly struggle with myself. So I'm speaking from experience here of being able to make sure I'm working on what I need to be working on, and surrounding myself with others that can do the things that they can do best.
Another thing that we do, Leslie, is in each of our little businesses, we have a, not necessarily always a managing partner, but we do have partners that are stock owners. We usually gift them enough stock to get them started, and there are ways that they can get more stock over years. There are, probably the main reason there is to provide us with an outside of the family observation on everything that's going on. And it holds us accountable too, and accountability is important to us. It holds us accountable because we're not all of a sudden going to be going out and spending all this money for family things.
Yes.
Okay? You know, no houses in Florida or anything like that, because this guy's out here with us, and it's, we could do it, but if you're going to maintain goodwill and good relationships, that's not something you want to do. I don't think. We don't think. But this outside person provides something else too, and they can provide us what we around work call sanity checks. Okay, and again, as we go back, and they're the ones that will raise their hand and let us know. And we've always kind of tried to operate with a triumvirate of I don't like the word, I can't think of the other, C-suite leadership.
Sure.
Three people at the top, you know. That way, if I say, hey, this is what I think we ought to do, and the other two don't agree, then Tom understands that maybe it wasn't a good idea. So if I'm in charge, or if Liv's in charge, and the other two of us say, we don't think it's a good idea, she has the final voice. But they provide better the sanity checks, if you will, in that kind of a relationship. Again, having fostered good, strong relationships with goodwill, and all of our, we're always looking, and Liv alluded to something we just started doing that relates here, and that's hiring for character. That's the first thing we look for. And then we either train them or we find people who have the skills, but first and foremost, we test. Liv and Andy have found a pretty good test, a pretty good mechanism for identifying character, and that's the first thing we want.
Do you feel like you've matured in some ways? I feel like
I have.
I just feel like
Yeah.
I'm a CEO.
Yeah.
Like I
We'll
am-
talk.
Yeah. In some ways I have, in some ways I have not.
You have in the important ways.
Yeah, right.
It's good. It's good to stay young.
Yeah. My kids keep me young, that's for sure. Yeah, I definitely have. I've worked with a business coach myself, an executive coach, and that has really helped, personally and professionally, but just to see where areas where I need to grow and stretch myself, and always trying to learn and what we like to say, be a better version of ourselves. So making sure that we stay up with technology and what's going on there. You don't think of technology necessarily with some of the things we're making, but it certainly does take technology on the back end to make these things happen. For instance, being able to evaluate, we use lasers to make a lot of our rubber stamps. And that's kind of a fun story in itself, that the lasers we have, the manufacturers of the lasers tell us that we shouldn't do what we're doing with our lasers, that you could start fires or something like that. But
Or just say it's not possible to do that.
It's just not possible to do that, but we do it day in and day out because of our employees that we have working with us. Our engineering mindset is something that we really believe in besides technology. Somebody telling us that we can't do something, well, that's a sure sign that we're going to figure it out.
Whenever issues come up, somebody will say, and I hope Liv doesn't always have to say, hey, we talked about that, but she can.
Right.
You've heard it, you've been there, and this
Or
is why
they
we're
can
just-
to me.
Right.
Exactly.
It's about that accountability.
Yeah, that's a good point, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like when you're talking about having a third partner, non-family member, it's almost like there's diversity there. So not
There
only
is.
are there males, females, different ages, but there's also a non-family member, which is something where you don't typically, you wouldn't think, oh, it's diverse board,
Yeah.
but that helps so
It
much.
does.
So
Yeah, and for me, it takes a lot of pressure off. You were asking about my growth, and there is pressure there, mostly pressure I put on myself. But having that third person there, having somebody there is critical for my sanity. But to bounce ideas off of, and hey, am I thinking about this right? Or not that I don't trust my decisions, I do, and feel I'm fully capable, but it's just that that person to add some insights and
Oh, sure.
and what Dad always says is you can throw an idea out there and then we can all build on it. But if I'm there and we don't have partners or other people like that, then it's throwing out my idea and trying to figure out the best way I can. But with that partner, we can grow that idea and really move it ahead a lot further and come up with much better solutions with that team.
I think that's it. I can't imagine how many times you come into work when you're not the owner and you're grumbling about, could be coffee, whatever it is. It's always like something. And then all of a sudden when you're in that leadership role of the person who's supposed to be taking the company somewhere, it's a different, you approach even your day completely differently. So if the employees have that ability to talk to you about a decision that you've made, it allows them to approach their day completely differently.
Or to say, Liv, you're kind of grumpy today, what's going on, you okay?
Yeah.
That kind of not accountability, but maybe it is accountability. But it just really, those kinds of things really strengthen the relationships.
Well, I cannot thank you both
glad
enough
to do
so
it.
much for coming on. This helps all of the viewers and anyone that we also use these in our Nick Navigator, which is online webinars and things. So I can't thank you enough for giving back to the community in this way. It's been
Our pleasure.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Community's been good to us.
that's for sure.
And
Yeah.
thanks so much, all of you, for watching. And together, we invite you back to watch another Getting Vulnerable and Going Strong.